Why interpret your dreams? The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. Dream interpretation has been a vital part of psychotherapy since the early 1900s, and it was the psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud that first introduced the idea of dream interpretation. His book, The Interpretation of Dreams, was the stimulus for other psychoanalysts to practice dream interpretation on their patients. It would be safe to say that any psychiatrist or psychologist today worth their salt regards dreams as vitally important. So the question to ask is, why wouldn't you? Even though Freud managed to get psychoanalysts to take dreams seriously, he was really not the first. Our ancient ancestors have always taken dreams seriously. Ancient Egyptians and Greeks regarded dream knowledge with so much importance that it could mean the difference between life and death. They created sleep temples to invite the dream gods to heal their people. And they healed them so miraculously that people would travel far and wide to visit the temples. A modern society may take a different view of this ancient history, but we should restrain our dismissiveness and still consider the psychological benefits of understanding our dreams. Could it be feasible that maybe Freud was just recycling a lost ancient art form that allowed people to better understand themselves and their mental ailments? Freud was very reserved in the miraculous power of dream interpretation. He didn't think dreams provided any physical healing potential, but he did recognize that there was a power for knowledge which lay beneath the dream, and this knowledge was almost always interconnected with the psychological desires of the dreamer. He declared, "Dreams completely satisfy wishes excited during the day which remain unrealized. They are simply and undisguisedly realization of wishes." Freud discovered that dreams were rarely random fantasies that would manifest by themselves. The dreamer's innermost wishes and emotional struggles to achieve those wishes during the day were clearly intertwined within the dream. Interpreting these desires and repressed urges within the dream was Freud's way of highlighting to the patient the unconscious repressed personality traits, or an attempt to make sense of a past trauma. Freud wanted his patients to respect the themes behind the dream and not merely dismiss important unconscious mind activity. He believed that the dream usually represented repressed sexual or unacceptable urges, and by bringing them into the light of consciousness, he was able to better resolve them. He felt that by keeping them repressed, the patient would often unconsciously act on them during daily life, thereby shedding light on our unconscious behaviors. The analogy of the iceberg is by far the most accepted method of describing the unconscious mind. Reality is presented to us via our senses, and our smaller conscious mind reconstructs this reality into a form that is universally understood by all. This consciousness is represented above the waterline and makes up our conscious reality. The daily stream of consciousness is endless, and the smaller conscious mind has limits to keep on top of this information. And this is where the larger submerged unconscious takes over to support the recording process. Some may even go further and label the unconscious as some form of higher consciousness. In the end, this is just a representation of the mind and the way to make sense of something quite complex. In essence, we're using the limits of our own consciousness to understand this complexity and we probably only get a partial view of what lies beneath our conscious awareness. It is the conscious limitation to fully recall or comprehend reality that causes a lot of our cognitive problems. In the study of neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, we're taught that the map is not the territory. In essence, what this means is that the stream of information that floods our senses can really only take in a portion of the content. Our brain is only creating a map of reality, and we make so many snap judgments and form so many beliefs based on this map. NLP tells us that our conscious mind is designed to distort, generalize, and delete information so we can make sense of the world. Just like wearing a veil, we only see what we believe, and this veil has been intricately woven over our lifetime. This is the crafted perception of reality we call our life. We can be confident that consciousness has its limits, but we can also be confident the unconscious seems to have a mind of its own. The unconscious handles everything from the regulation of our blood pressure to the rhythmic rise and fall of our chest as we breathe, and we are completely unaware of this process. Our conscious mind is more linear and slower compared to the unconscious mind, which is considerably faster. We categorize these fast decisions as intuition or instinct. People in life and death situations have been known to make snap decisions, which end up saving lives. It is this unconscious power to care for us and others which seems to have a strange control over us. The same can be said when a person we know snaps or does something out of character. They say that they're just not being themselves. We can be sure that the unconscious has some part to play. Some thoughts are rationally formulated as we talk to oneself, while some thoughts just seem to come from nowhere with no effort on our part. Like a message from an unknown traveller. It is an unfamiliar part of the mind that holds deeper meaning, that challenges us and ignites a strong emotion. The brave dig deeper on this meaning, while the insecure continue to disregard, hiding behind the safety of a veil. It was Carl Jung who went further on Sigmund Freud's dream work. Jung knew that our dreams were significantly more complex and meaningful than the common person regarded. Jung said, "The dream is specifically the utterance of the unconscious. Just as the psyche has a diurnal side, which we call consciousness, so also it has a nocturnal side, the unconscious psychic activity which we apprehend as dreamlike fantasy." He also said, "In each of us is another whom we do not know. He speaks to us in dreams and tells us how differently he sees us from the way we see ourselves." Jung wanted to challenge how people valued their dreams. He believed that our dreams provided the objective truths, which often contradicted how we saw ourselves during the day. This aligns with what is taught in NLP, that our consciousness has limited capacity to store, recall, and reconstruct our realities, while the unconscious is all-knowing and able to provide real meaning to the dreamer. Jung also said, "Dreams are impartial, spontaneous products of the unconscious psyche, outside the control of the will. They are pure nature. They show us the unvarnished, natural truth, and are therefore fitted as nothing else is to give us back an attitude that accords with our basic human nature when our consciousness has strayed too far from its foundations and run into an impasse. While Freud and Jung both agree that dreams contain knowledge beyond the awareness of the individual, Jung did not agree on Freud's view that the knowledge only related to the dreamer's desires. Jung believed the dream was considerably more complex than that. Jung believed analysing one's dream was vital to better accept themselves as an individual. Jung called this the individuation process. Jung was also very open-minded by the intelligence of the unconscious and how it communicated to people via their dreams. He regularly documented uncommon spiritual-like events throughout his literature. There was no empirical proof of the phenomenon that he spoke about, but his description of the events managed to hit a chord with a reader that was clearly open to exploring the depths of the human mind. His comprehensive psychoanalysis has managed to capture a wide audience, including not only the spiritually inclined, but also many psychologists and psychiatrists who highly regard his deep analysis of the unconscious. He spoke of the precognition in dreams and how the events of the day would often mirror the dream to provide some form of meaning for the dreamer. He called these events synchronicities or meaningful coincidences. The primary purpose of these events being the individuation process, to balance the consciousness with the unconsciousness and the eventual discovery of the true self. And so this is why you should interpret your dreams.